In this video, I will discuss the 3 techniques to running the daily Scrum effectively. I will also discuss the technique I use to run my daily Scrums. I will also cover tips and techniques I use to derive more value out of daily Scrum and make them more effective and keep them within the 15 minutes. Technique number 1. Technique number 1 is a fairly simple one. It is those famous 3 questions. What I worked on yesterday, what I'm planning on doing today, and if there are any impediments. The value of these 3 questions is that we become all aware of what each of us are working on. And if anyone is stuck, we become aware of it. Also, when we discuss what we worked on yesterday, if any senior stakeholder or anyone else is trying to sneak any work onto our Scrum team members, that becomes apparent because they'll say, I worked on this, and the Scrum Master, the product owner, and everyone else will say, actually, that's not part of our sprint goals. So why are you working on it? These 3 questions are very common and are really beneficial for the teams that are starting up on. But as the team size grows, I know Scrum Guide and all the literature around Agile teams says that you must keep your teams 7 plus or minus 2. The maximum Scrum team size ideally should be 9. Unfortunately, when we look at the corporate world, we find teams that are even twice the size of the one recommended in our Scrum Guide. So when you're working with these large, huge teams, you will find that these 3 questions don't work with the large teams. The team becomes disoriented after a few people have told what they are going to be working on. There are more effective ways of doing daily Scrum, especially with the large team. To be honest with, when I became Scrum Master, this was the technique I was using for many years, till I discovered the 3rd technique that we'll discuss in this video. Another challenge with these 3 questions is that if you have any corporate event, like all hands meeting, or you have just done your sprint planning, the first daily Scrum you have after that, every team member will say, oh, yesterday I was in sprint planning, or yesterday was taken up by all hands meeting, and everyone repeats that, and you're thinking, why? I know where you guys were. That got nothing to do with our sprint goals. Technique number 2. So technique number 2 expands on the first 3 questions. Rather than saying what I worked on yesterday and what I'm planning on working on today, we discuss what did I do yesterday to work towards achieving the sprint goal, and what am I planning on working today that is going to have an impact and that is going to help us achieve the sprint goal. And the 3rd question stays the same, what impediments I had. And this often encourages, this technique helps team focus towards the sprint goals and talking about sprint related activities and exclude all the other things that has been happening with it in the team. I'll be honest with you, I've never used this technique, so I don't know how well that works. But I've heard other Scrum Masters who have seen this challenge of saying, oh, yesterday I was in sprint planning, or yesterday I was in a whole hands meeting, using this technique to get the team to focus on discussing the sprint related activity. Technique number 3, and this is the technique that I have been using. Once I was struggling with a really large team, with 25 people in that team, and the Agile coach in the organization, my mentor, he sort of introduced me to this 3rd technique, and I cannot thank him enough because it has revolutionized how I do my daily Scrum. So the 3rd technique is fairly simple. It is actually one that we steal from the Kanban. So what we do basically is that in a Kanban style, we walk the board. What walk the board actually means is that you start from the right hand column, the column just before the done column, and you walk towards the left. So you discuss all the stories that are closer to being completed done, and you look at that column just before done. Potentially it's going to be testing or UAT or something similar to that, and you talk about what user stories are in that column and what needs to be done to move them to done. And you get the people who need to move those user stories to done their commitment first to work on those things first. Then you move on to the column before that, and you discuss where your stories are there and who's going to be working on, or if there are any blockers with those, and what needs to be done for them to move to the next column. And you keep on moving leftwards. So you want to get everyone's commitment on the user stories that are in progress. They are being worked before someone goes and picks up a user story from the sprint backlog to start on it. So you want to focus on getting user stories done, delivering value before starting new user story. As a Scrum Master, you want to encourage your team to start finishing stuff, start moving stuff done, and stop starting stuff. So what you'll get generally is that people are really keen on starting stuff but not finishing. So we want to focus on completing stuff. And if you read the book Scrum, the Art of Doing Twice the Work in Half the Time, there is a whole chapter on waste and how having a lot of stuff that is incomplete, how much wasted effort that is, and how that impacts on organization financials. So we want to focus on completing stuff, then starting stuff. So now, as I promised, how do I run my daily Scrum? And tips and tricks based on that. Now, all of the teams I worked with in the last 3 organizations have been virtual. We run a virtual daily Scrum. In these virtual meetings, when I'm the first one to log into the Microsoft Teams, or if you're using Zoom, then into Zoom. And one thing I will bring up is a Confluence page that has a Jira burn down chart for that sprint with our 3 sprint goals written on it. And when people are logging into our daily Scrum meeting, the first thing they will see is our burn down and our sprint goals. So that we are reminding them every single day of what commitment we made to our product owner, what our sprint goals are, and how we are progressing towards those. So ideally we want our burn down chart to be little steps going down rather than going straight down and having big waterfall or moving in the opposite direction. So it encourages team to focus on what our sprint goals are, being aware of what our sprint priorities are, and also we can track how we are progressing towards that. It also encourages team to complete user stories and see that burn down going down. When everyone has joined this daily Scrum, then what we do is we rotate the role of who's going to be running the daily Scrum. Whoever's turn it is to do the daily Scrum, they'll bring up the Jira sprint board and we'll walk the board. And we use this walking the board technique number 3. At the end of the daily Scrum, I have another meeting set up called Tech Talk, and that is basically straight after the 15 minutes of daily Scrum, 1 hour meeting in every single developer's calendar. And the objective of that meeting is that during our daily Scrum, because we are all working virtually, so that if anyone is struggling with any user story, they will say, I need help. And they will say, in the daily Scrum, we'll discuss who will be able to help them. And those people join the Tech Talk and they will sit there and try to help each other out. So we are not having long-winded talks in our daily Scrum, but all of those technical discussions that we need to have, helping each other out, we can do that straight after the daily Scrum, and it's booked in everyone's calendar so that they know they need to keep that time clear to help each other out. And if they don't need to help anyone out, that is more focused time for people to be productive. One of the challenges of being virtual is that when we were co-located, we used to have that chit-chat over the shoulder. We used to have those water cooler moments. We used to get to know each other. We used to build that bond. And we want to still encourage that within our Scrum teams. So what I normally do is that twice a week, normally Monday and Thursday, is extend our daily Scrum by 15 minutes. And the purpose of that is that the first 15 minutes, we have a social discussion. We have a chit chat. How was your weekend? What is happening in everyone's life? For instance, in one of my Scrum teams, there was one of our colleagues who was learning to play piano. So we got him to play a piece to us in one of these social events. So by having these social 15 minutes twice a week. It builds that bond, that relationship within your Scrum team. That is going to come really handy for them when they are struggling. And if there is something that special you are doing in your Scrum team, then why not put it in comment and share it with us, so we all within the Agile community learn from this. I have now been Scrum Master since 2011, and I'm making these YouTube videos to share my knowledge, my skills, my techniques with the Agile community. I've been using Scrum, Kanban, Spotify model, and I'm SAFe certified RTE. So my channel will have discussions and videos related to all of these different Agile methodologies and the techniques of helping the teams. So if you are interested in learning more about these or taking part in these discussions, then please subscribe to my channel so that when my videos come out, you get notification or you can see them on your feed and you can join in with that discussion. If you have liked this video, please don't forget to like the video and subscribe.